How power shapes economic behavior. Power shapes economic behavior in two different ways. It can be directly when a powerful firm dictates to the weak supplier. It can also be indirectly when a powerful industry group shapes regulation to its own advantage. The structural theory of power can be traced back to Marx's ideas. Marx's concern is with how powerful groups succeed in promoting practices and public policy that are in their interest as being in the common interest. Marx described the capitalist state as a tool of the capitalist class which justify its existence under the pretense of political liberalism. Marx's idea was that modern states serve one group while claiming to embody principles that benefit everyone. Structural theories of power explore the role that power plays in determining the state policies, corporate strategies, and individual behavior that we take to be transparently rational. Even though Marx's prediction that communism would triumph over capitalism didn't materialize, but this method and core insight are very much alive in economic sociology today. His method of tracing the factors that lead to changes in economic behavior patterns over time has shaped all branches of historical economic sociology. His main insight was that it is not merely abstract ideas that drive economic history, but productions, processes, and social relations. Like neoclassical economists, Marx argues that self-interest shape economic behavior. But for Marx, individual self-interest leads people to try to shape the world to their advantage rather than to simply achieve the best price in every transaction, as neoclassical economic theory suggests. Marx's focus on power is reflected in a number of recent historical studies of the evolution of business practices. For example, Marx asks, how did changes in production after the relative power of the aristocracy and the bourgeoisie, giving the latter the upper hand in shaping the economy and the capacity to promote capitalism? In his book, The German Ideology, Marx chronicles the history of class conflict in Europe. Marx argued that under feudalism, a nascent class of craftspeople and manufacturers grew by actively selling their wares and building their production capacity. They challenged the traditional political rights and privileges of feudal lords, encouraging policies that favored industry such as sources. They gained the capacity to shape the political and economic realm to their own advantage. Marx argued both feudalism and capitalism were designed to suit the classes that control the means of production, which he referred to the aristocracy and the bourgeoisie, respectively. The interesting question for Marx was how these classes managed to legitimate economic institutions that favored themselves. Marx argued that the modern state impose capitalist rules of economic behavior on a society in which the vast majority were not capitalists, and it did so under the rhetoric of political liberalism rather than under that of capitalist domination. In so doing, modern state made capitalism itself seem natural and inevitable, and Marx did not see it as either. Recent power theories have taken from this analysis the idea that modern state impose a particular set of rules, regulations, and institutions shaping economic life. Citizens of any state tend to see state policy that create the ground rules for economic competition as neutral and as conforming to economic law rather than as the consequence of a series of power struggle. Modern power theories point to the role of conflict and power in creating these ground rules and in forming conventional business practices.